What if you're haunted? Because you see too clearly. Most people fear losing their mind. Carl Jung feared something else, seeing too much. In his darkest writings, Jung described a rare kind of perception, not intuition, not empathy, but a raw sensitivity to the unconscious layers of others, the lies they don't say, the pain they won't feel, the truths they've buried so deep even they forgot. People with this sensitivity weren't broken. Their nervous system worked like psychic radar, and Jung didn't call it a gift. He called it dangerous, because when you see what others repress, you don't just witness the truth, you pay for it.
There's a kind of perception that doesn't come from study or meditation. It's carved into your nervous system by necessity. You didn't ask to see things others don't. You had to. Growing up in chaos, around unpredictable moods or unspoken violence, you learned how to read a room before a word was spoken. You felt the temperature change before the storm hit. You recognized fake smiles, hidden resentment, and tension disguised as politeness because your safety depended on it. This isn't mystical sensitivity. It's survival intelligence, the kind that looks like intuition but is really adaptation. And it doesn't turn off when the danger is gone. You carry it into adulthood, into relationships, workplaces, social gatherings. You scan people before they speak. You feel shifts others don't notice. You know when something is about to unravel, a job, a friendship, a marriage, even if no one else sees it yet. You don't call it a gift. It feels more like a haunting, because when you can see patterns unfolding long before they climax, you're left holding a quiet kind of grief. A grief for things that haven't happened yet, but will. You know someone's lying before they lie. You sense the collapse behind their performance. You mourn relationships before they break, and you brace for storms others still pretend aren't coming. And you can't say anything, because when you try, when you speak the truth that no one else is ready to admit, they look at you like you're the problem. So you become a mirror that reflects too clearly, and people don't thank mirrors, they break them. You see the envy hiding behind compliments, the sadness buried beneath smiles, the anger leaking out in subtle jabs. You can't not see it, it's involuntary. And when you speak to it, even gently, people flinch. They accuse you of being negative, difficult, too much, not because you're wrong, but because you see what they're trying not to. Eventually you learn to stop talking, not out of weakness, but as a form of self-preservation. You begin to smile when you know something is off. You nod along in conversations you know are full of lies. You laugh at jokes that make your stomach sink. Silence becomes armor, but it's a heavy kind of armor, one that keeps pain out, yes, but also locks something sacred in. The deeper cost is burnout, because the psychic system isn't built to hold this much unspoken truth. You go through your day absorbing invisible grief, quiet resentment, collective fatigue. You feel strangers' fear as if it were your own. You walk through a crowd and pick up emotions like static, tension, guilt, loneliness, all of it clinging to your skin like smoke. It's not that you're broken, it's that your body is attuned to what others have learned to ignore. You are haunted, not by spirits, but by suppressed energies echoing through every room, every interaction. Jung spoke of shadow projection and social rejection, but he never fully mapped this. The embodied weight of being emotionally porous in a world that rewards numbness. You are the tuning fork. You vibrate with what others won't acknowledge. And it's not a disorder, it's a form of truth. But like all truth, if it isn't integrated, it corrodes. Not because it's false, but because it's too much. To survive this kind of vision, you don't need to see more. You need to learn how to carry what you already see, without letting it bury you. What Jung feared most wasn't social rejection, it was psychic collapse. When you're constantly absorbing others' unconscious energy, when you feel everyone's suppressed anger, fear, envy, grief, when you know things you can't explain and sense truths no one will admit, your boundaries start to break down. You no longer know where you end and others begin. You can't rest because you're always on. You can't connect because you feel misunderstood. You can't unsee what you see, but you also can't explain it without being dismissed. Jung described this as a collapse of psychological containment, a blurring between the internal and external self. This collapse isn't insanity, it's clarity without integration, and that is why this gift becomes a curse. Many who carry this kind of sensitivity spend years wondering what's wrong with them. They're told they're too intense, too sensitive, too reactive. They get labeled as anxious, dramatic, depressive, avoidant. But what's often happening is far more nuanced. They're not mentally ill, they're mentally unprotected, carrying a psychic burden no one trained them to hold. And when perception outweighs containment, Jung warned, the person may experience what he called shadow possession. You start identifying with the pain you see in others. You lose yourself inside what you're absorbing. You become haunted, not just by what you feel, but by who you're becoming in response to it. To awaken, to see through the illusions that hold society together, sounds like liberation, and in many ways it is. But it comes with a strange and painful paradox. Once you awaken, you no longer belong to the game you used to play, but you're still in it. Carl Jung gave us the psychological diagnosis. Alan Watts gave us the metaphor. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a game to be played. And that's the unsettling truth. When you truly awaken, you begin to see life for what it is. A stage, a performance, a collective dream dressed in symbols and seriousness. But once you see the set pieces and the lighting tricks, it becomes impossible to forget. You know the arguments at work, the family dramas, the frantic hustle for status are just masks, covering a deeper void few dare to name. And here's the real tension. Once you know it's a play, you can't take the roles seriously anymore, but everyone else still does. Imagine walking into a room full of people fighting over politics or clinging to social hierarchies. You see through the whole thing, the fear behind the control, the ego beneath the ambition, the loneliness disguised as confidence. You're no longer hypnotized. You see it, all of it. But if you say it out loud, they'll treat you like you're the crazy one. Because society isn't built on truth. It's built on shared dreams. Break the dream and you break the spell. Break the spell and they'll call you dangerous. Jung warned that those who awaken often experience rejection, not recognition. Not because they're wrong, but because they no longer worship the idols of the collective psyche. Success, productivity, national identity, social conformity. The world interprets your clarity as arrogance, when really, you're just no longer enchanted by the illusions that once controlled you. And this is where the real danger begins, the temptation to become bitter. Because once you see through the dream, it's easy to feel superior. You start mocking those still asleep. You laugh at their obsessions, their attachments, their blind routines. You think, they don't get it. I do. You isolate. You withdraw. You become the enlightened cynic, perched above the masses. But now you've fallen into another trap, a subtler illusion. The ego has shapeshifted into the one who sees. Alan Watts warned of this spiritual arrogance. The point of awakening, he said, wasn't to escape the dream. It was to re-enter it with awareness. To dance in the play, not burn the theater down. The moment you use your vision as a weapon, you've fallen asleep again, dreaming a new dream of superiority. So what's the answer? It's not to run, not to preach, not to fix. It's to live, to laugh at the absurdity, to love people without needing them to wake up, to work, to create, to share, but without mistaking any of it for ultimate meaning. That's the paradox of awakening. You know it's all a dream, but you care anyway. You play your part, but with a wink in your eye. You become free, not by escaping the game, but by remembering it's just a game. And in that remembering, you move differently, not above the world, not outside it, but through it, with grace. There's a way out, but not by closing your eyes, and not by walking away. The way out is not escape, it's integration. Carl Jung called it individuation. The lifelong process of becoming who you are beneath what you carry. And for those who perceive more than most, this is not a luxury, it's a necessity. The first step? Learning what's yours, and what isn't. Because when you're hyper-attuned to others, you absorb more than you realize. Moods, fears, projections. You think you're feeling anxious, but it's actually the tension in the room. You think you're sad, but it's someone else's grief bleeding through a conversation. Jung warned about this psychic blurring. When your own boundaries dissolve and the unconscious material of others starts flooding in, unfiltered. If you don't sort through it, you drown in emotions that aren't even yours. That's why solitude isn't selfish. It's sacred maintenance, a quiet room, a pen, a walk in silence. These aren't indulgences, they're psychic hygiene. But solitude alone won't save you. You need emotional boundaries. You don't need to close your heart. You need to seal your psychic skin. Learn to notice without absorbing. You can witness someone's chaos without becoming its container. You can see the storm and choose not to step inside it. This isn't coldness, it's strategic compassion. And it gives you space to redirect your insight into something generative. Because the truth is, people who see more must create. Art, music, writing, architecture, even strategy. These are vessels for vision. They're where the unspeakable finds form. You can't always speak what you know, but you can build something from it. And in doing so, you lighten the weight of what you carry. And though it often feels like you're the only one, you're not. There are others, people who see, people who feel too much, people who've gone quiet not because they're empty, but because they're full. They're out there, not loud, not obvious, but you'll know them by the stillness in their eyes, the sharpness of their silence, the way they pause before answering, because they've already seen 10 layers deeper than your question. Seek them. Find the ones who aren't afraid to reflect. They won't fix you. They'll remind you, you're not insane. You're just sensitive in a numb world. But don't preach. Preaching breaks the spell. The ones who try to awaken others with force are still trapped in their own ego. The real wise ones don't argue. They embody. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. Live your insight. Don't sell it. Be the calm in the chaos. The one who sees, but still shows up, still laughs, still creates. Because in the end, awakening isn't an event. It's a daily discipline. A choice to feel deeply without drowning. To reflect shadows without becoming one. To know and still remain human. This is the only way to survive what you see, not by dimming it, but by carrying it wisely.
If you feel haunted by what you see, you're not broken, you're awake. Jung didn't see this as madness, but a burden and a calling. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's the start of medicine. You carry what others ignore, not to collapse under it, but to transform it. The same vision that isolates you is the one that can heal, but only if you protect it. Don't let it harden you, let it shape you, gently. You weren't meant to retreat from life. You were meant to live it more deeply, awake, soft, and unshaken.